And what is so interesting about this conversation is that once upon a time, one speaker interviewed the other. Okay. Since then, the interviewer has taken off in their career and is going to be the interviewee. So the master has become the student, or the student has become the master, but they're both masters at their craft. I don't know if y'all got that. So let me give y'all an explanation by introducing the speakers, okay? Niija Kuykendall is the executive vice president of production at Warner Brothers Pictures, where she is in post-production on the film Just Mercy starring Michael B. Jordan, me. In her time at Warner Brothers, Niija has overseen the production of movies such as the recently released The Sun Is Also a Star Is Born, Stephen King's It, Kong Skull Island, as well as Magic Mike 1 and 2, Edge of Tomorrow, Argo, and Contagion. Now to Asjia. Asjia, me and Asjia, we have history. I came up in this program with Asjia. I was telling y'all earlier, you know, when I was broke and eating cereal for dinner, I would send that over to Asjia like I'm eating, you know, Cocoa Pebbles. She'll send me when she's eating for dinner too, you know, and it's just so great to see what she's on to now. And she is the communications coordinator for First Lady Jill Biden. And she was a producer for paid media on the Biden-Harris campaign, creating TV and digital ads nationwide. Essence named her one of, let me repeat this. Essence named her one of the Black female leaders behind the Biden-Harris campaign. Okay, I'm gonna repeat it one more time like Dr. Umar Johnson. Essence named her one of the Black female leaders behind the Biden-Harris campaign. And prior, she interned at the Obama Foundation for Digital Media, NBC Universal Marketing, and Warner Brothers Entertainment for Global Research Analytics. Asjia, the stage is all yours.
Oh my gosh. Well, hello, everybody. That was truly a very, very generous introduction, Alex. Thank you.
I guess I'll start and kick us off. I will say, I'll just kind of clarify that I'm supposed to be interviewing Asjia, and she bullied me into making this a two-way conversation, which I agreed to because she insisted up until last night. But there's so much for her to talk about in terms of her journey. I'm really excited about this. But the only way she would do it is for us to kind of both talk about our journeys. So
because you are incredible and people want to hear from you too. So
well, we're going to hear a lot more from you. So let's start with, first of all, I'm so proud of you, Asjia. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. I remember the first time we met in my office when you were about to start your internship at Warner Brothers, and we have so much in common. I didn't graduate but started as a journalism major, studied abroad, like all the things that you kind of wanted to do and aspired to do. I was in those same shoes as a freshman at college. And so I was so excited for you to start at Warner's, and you had this opportunity to kind of like cross the whole lot and be in all these different kinds of departments on the lot. And literally the whole 4 years you were with us, I would just hear from people what a rock star you were. Like just randomly people would be like, I think you know Asjia, she's amazing. And so I just want to tell you, you made me so proud then. And then to see how you have evolved in your choices and your path to today, I'm even prouder. So I'm really excited. I'd love for you to start with talking about, explain exactly what you do right now and kind of what your world is right now, what your work is right now. And then go back and talk about what your experience was with Emma Bowen and at Warner's and what led to this. So start with right now, and then let's backtrack to the path to your decision-making and the work that you've been doing the last year.
Well, first off, thank you. And I would not be here without you at all, without all of your advice, your mentorship, your time, your support throughout the past, when I was in college, through all 4 years, and then after as well, and supporting me through my career. So thank you. Well, first off, thank you everyone for being here. Before I jump into everything, I do want to preface that, everyone's journey is so different, and it is so unique to you. And so I just hope you know that, because I remember like when I was sitting on these panels, I would always start to like compare myself and just kind of like pressure myself into these different like, you know, lines of thought. But truly, like everyone's journey is going to be so different. And so I am really excited to watch all of you grow and just, you know, jump off into your careers. But I hope my experience can help you in some way, shape, or form. So, so I guess I'll start with what I do now. I guess like in broad strokes, I am the communications coordinator for First Lady Jill Biden, and I manage the strategic execution and like implementation across internal and external communications for her. What does that actually mean? Because we are a team of 3, small but mighty. It's just me, the communications director, and the press secretary. It means I'm like pretty much a catch-all, which I will do everything from building her press pools to strategic communications to writing press releases to I am also at FLOTUS. I also ran her digital. So there's a lot of different components. I do editing, I do social. So there's a lot throughout the day and every day. No day is the same, I will say that. So I guess because the First Lady is not like a political appointee, I basically just I really admired her position just because we have the opportunity to do a lot of initiatives and to, you know, set our own agenda and to just basically create our own projects and goals for in different communities. And so her 3 pillars are military, education, and cancer. And so I specifically am really passionate about education, especially international education. So it's incredible to work she's a former professor, if folks didn't know, but it's incredible to work for someone like her who is also still teaching while a First Lady. So that's just kind of my day-to-day, or just a brief like kind of synopsis of what I do.
Okay, so take us back to your experience as an Emma Bowen Fellow at Warner's and give us kind of some headlines of what you were able to experience and work on there. And then what led to kind of shifting your path to go and work for the Biden-Harris campaign, essentially, from the Warner's experience to that?
So when I was, let me preface this with first that I took a lot of pivots in my career so far. I literally wanted to be a fashion designer at one point, and then I wanted to be the next Anderson Cooper, which is when I went into college, and then I went into entertainment, and now I'm in politics. So if you don't know what you want to do in life, do not worry, because you will take a lot of turns and a lot of pivots, as I have. And so I'll also go into that as well. But when I first joined Emma Bowen, and I was fortunate enough to do so as well, my whole entire application was about journalism. I wanted to be the next international correspondent. I just wanted to be, like I said, the next Anderson Cooper. And then Warner Brothers wanted to interview me. I was kind of shocked because I didn't have, an entertainment experience but I did my homework, I did my research, and I think it was like 8 interviews later, I landed up at Pretty Little Liars, which was my first internship there. It was on the production team, and it was the last season. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Pretty Little Liars. It's kind of an old drama show, I guess now. Old. I'm not that old. But I was basically helping and supporting the production supervisor and maintaining the production schedule. So a lot of that, which was really fun, was riding around the studio in a cart and just truly like going from set to set, like bringing people what they needed, helping maintain the schedule, getting scripts ready. It was just a full day every day from 9 to 7, 8, 9 sometimes. It was awesome. And so I learned a lot about the basics of, not the basics, but I just learned I had an incredible view of how a TV show comes together at a studio. And I just learned from everyone, from the director to the props masters to, the script writers, and it was a very, very incredible experience, especially for my first internship. And then my second year, I expressed that I was kind of more interested in like the business of media, and so I was placed at the global analytics and insights team. So we did a lot of like ad hoc analysis and research for both like scripted and unscripted television shows and films. We did a lot of like simulations and research into like the Ellen show, and like tested like new cartoons that were supposed to come out on Cartoon Network, and all these different like IPs and touch points. And so there was a lot, and through that internship was when I was kind of introduced to the diversity and inclusion initiative that was kind of going around at Warner Brothers. And this was the first time that interns were going to take it on and kind of do research. And we, implemented interviews, and we did like focus groups with employees all around campus. And so we presented a D&I proposal to a few executives at Warner Brothers, and that was when I became really passionate about diversity, and just got really excited about like all the change that we could do in terms of bringing more representation and perspectives to screen. And then my third internship and final internship before I graduated was at Stage 13, and it was this small like digital studio within a studio, but it was they created content specifically for like diverse and bilingual audiences on a streaming platform called Stage 13. And so it was a very small also but mighty group, and I got to see got to experience and learn about everything from creative development to brand marketing, sales marketing, and then as well as digital marketing. So that was my third internship, and it was just everything from going on set to doing all of the work and management and marketing in the studio and putting lots of presentations and decks together. And holistically, I think that was I just had such an incredible view of the entertainment world and what I wanted to do. And I really wanted to like pursue diversity and inclusion. But then this is the pivot where one day, it was truly my last day at my internship, actually at Stage 13. And one of the executives came up to me and asked me, like, have you ever thought of the Obama Foundation? And I just thought, no, like there's no way I would get into the Obama Foundation. But thank you. And she goes, no, seriously, I think you should apply for it. She's like, I'm sorry, I don't have any connections, but I truly just think you should apply and just see. And this was the first time that, I don't know why, I doubted myself for a while, because I don't know, it felt so far and out of reach for some reason. And so I'm very unlike me to wait till the very last day to apply. And then I applied. And I was lucky enough to receive an internship at the Obama Foundation. And I actually packed up and moved to Chicago my last semester in college. And I moved to Chicago and I luckily had a roommate out there who my roommate was from. He was a former coworker when we used to serve and wait tables together. And so I moved out there with him. And I worked there, and I was just exposed to this political world, and it was an honor to work for the former president and to be able to support all of his initiatives around the world, because he does a lot of programming to lift up other leaders around the globe. And so I loved the aspect of it. And I was working on the digital team as a digital media intern. And a lot of people who worked there were from the administration, the Obama administration, and some, had done the Hillary campaign. And that is where I learned a lot about campaigns. And I didn't even know that was an option, to be honest. Didn't even think about it. And then come April, former President Trump announced he was running. And it got me thinking, this can't happen again. So after I graduated, Warner Brothers and I were kind of discussing full-time employment, and this was a point that I actually I had to pray a lot about this, because it was a very hard decision for me, because especially because Emma Bowen, you know, they set you up for success for this exact reason, right? To do all of these internships, to then hopefully be placed at one of these media companies. Doesn't have to be your sponsor company, of course, just like a media company that you are, you know, passionate about working for, that you want to work for. And so this was in a way like kind of the whole purpose. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like the ideal situation. I would love to work for Warner Brothers, and I'd be so honored to do so. But something just kept on telling me to fight the good fight. And I didn't want to sit on the sidelines and I don't know, our country was just so divided, and it was this was like only 2 years ago, but it was just, I still remember it so vividly. It was just such a cruel and kind of dark time. And I just, at the end of the day, if it's not for like what I wanted, it was to be for what my brother and sister would want. I would just want them to live in a world that was more kind and more just, and not full of hatred. And so I decided to join the campaign, and it was weird. I felt like I don't know if you guys have heard, this is probably cheesy, but that Robert Frost poem where like two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that truly did make all the difference, because it was a grueling year and a half. I don't know if any of you follow politics or follow the primaries, but we were not doing so well in Iowa. We weren't doing so well in New Hampshire. It was an incredible experience I worked on the paid media team specifically, and I was a producer there. I started out as a paid media assistant, a production assistant, I should say, and then I moved up to associate producer and then producer. But we were at the end creating and producing TV and digital ads for nationwide. So in every state, every local market, we were, and every single state and local market had different messaging lanes. So we would be pushing out like 20 different ads a week, and producing like, I think at the end we produced like close to 1,000, but we obviously didn't put out all 1,000. But it was a lot. For every like 10 we produced, we probably ended up shipping one. So it was an incredible lot of work. It was a lot of work, but yeah. And I think, sorry if I'm rambling, but that's pretty much how I got to where I am today. And again, it was a very tough decision, because it was really risky for me too, because obviously politics is not something that is highly regarded at times, I'll say, but it is. It was the biggest blessing, and I'm absolutely honored to have served President Biden.
It's amazing. And the whole time that you were going through this whole experience, I was in awe. And I remember when you made the decision to do that, to go join the campaign instead of take a position at Warner's, and Antonio, our HR rep, being like, he's gonna leave us and go do this thing. It's amazing. I can't believe it. And so you still, I think you have a home with us no matter when you're ready. So
thank you.
Okay, so as I said, there's a lot to learn and talk about with you, so I can keep on going.
No. I have questions for you. So we can, because so Niija, as you all heard, is incredible, and one of the things, she's just made so many waves in entertainment in terms of setting the bar and breaking barriers across representation and films. I don't know if you guys have seen all those movies that Alex did list off earlier, like Just Mercy or Judas and the Black Messiah. But if you haven't seen them, you have got to, because this is what it's all about. And especially what we represent at Emma Bowen, right, in terms of diversity and bringing more voices and perspectives to the table. So I would love to ask Niija. So one of the things that I so admire about you is this, the vision that you have for storytelling and bringing voices to the table. And having a vision is truly so vital in your career. And it's actually, it's something that, motivates and drives us towards our goals. But sometimes when we're in these internships at different stages and also in the middle of college, our vision often like shifts a lot and changes. And I mean, I know I went through it where I didn't know, I for a while just kind of shifted in terms of what I wanted to do and my career goals. And when we first enter the workforce, I think there's a lot of pressure to have to know what we want to do and have to have it all figured out. So when you were in Emma Bowen, like where did you see yourself going at first, and how did your vision change and drive your purpose?
Well, definitely a lot of pivots, and even when you are on your path, kind of in your world and on this path and have momentum, there's still a lot of pivots, and so when I first started in Emma Bowen and started, college, I thought I wanted to be a journalist. I thought I wanted to be a photojournalist. I was a big photographer, artist. I wanted to do documentary film. I wanted to do photojournalism. I entered into Brown as a media studies major. It was a double major, media studies and anthropology. And the first pivot was shifting that focus, because I thought I wanted to be this journalist, this visual journalist, but shifting that focus from journalism and documentary and real life truth telling, essentially, to narrative film. And I took a class at Brown and I was always a huge bookworm and really into storytelling and considered myself a storyteller, just like always nose in a book, every type of book. But I took a class at Brown that was about Black women filmmakers, independent Black women filmmakers. And that just kind of blew my world apart. And I shifted my whole focus to focus on narrative storytelling, and ended up on this academia track and had a fellowship. I was a Mellon Fellow, so I had a fellowship to get my PhD. I had a fellowship to do research, and ended up doing my thesis for school for undergrad. Was a comparative study of two Black women filmmakers, Julie Dash and Gloria Rolando being Afro-Cuban, and Julie Dash being the filmmaker of Daughters of the Dust, which is one of my favorite films and put me on this path. And so my first pivot was that in college. My second pivot was graduating and not feeling motivated to go to school for what felt like a million more years to get my PhD. And I ended up getting a job in corporate communications for Viacom. And that was actually through the connections and the network and the mentorship of Emma Bowen. I started at King World International. And at the time, Roger King was on the board of Emma Bowen. And I started as an assistant at that company, and then moved from that company to Viacom owned King World. And so I transitioned from that company to corporate communications for Viacom. And I was basically the kid who could write. I wrote speeches, I wrote newsletters, I wrote shareholder newsletters, I wrote talking points for MTV in China, like whatever the CEOs needed, I would do like the first drafts of. And I didn't really know at that time, I was in my early 20s, I didn't really know what my path was. I kind of moved away from this path of academia and thinking I was going to get my PhD in like film studies and media studies. Wasn't quite sure what it was going to be. And so this was really like a job, right? And it was an enlightening job. It was exciting. I got to learn so much because being in Corp Com, I got to interact with CBS. I got to interact with Paramount. I got to interact with all of the different divisions that Viacom owned, all the different businesses that Viacom owned. And then through that, started getting like really jealous of everyone being creative and telling stories and me being on the corporate side, and decided to transition into producing and interned and hustled to get my opportunity to quit my job and start that journey as a producer. So there's been so many pivots, even on this path of making movies. I'm in a position now where I've been at my company for 13 years and I'm pivoting. Like we now are making, half my slate is now HBO Max and streaming. Like that's not something I ever would have thought of 13 years ago, even 2 years ago. And so there's always pivots, and it's always just about what's your North Star. My North Star is telling stories, telling amazing stories, telling diverse stories, telling things that really compel me and I think will compel the world. So So that is my story of pivoting. So listen, everybody get used to pivoting, get comfortable with it, and just think about what your North Star is. That's the consistent thing that you should be thinking about, because there's going to be lots of pivoting and lots of opportunity in your futures.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that you said North Star, because it is true when you are, moving in different areas and thrown in different barriers and challenges along the way. Like you have to, keep a constant vision of what you want to do in this world, how you want to change the world and how you want to impact others. That'll keep you going, and you'll end up, using your skill set in different ways, in different fields. Just kind of like, how I moved from entertainment to politics, but in the sense I was also still doing like the common medium was, media and entertainment, and production and video production. Sorry.
This actually, like what you're saying, actually speaks quite well to the next question I had for you, as well as a question that's coming from the audience, which is, what advice do you have to pivot from one industry to another? How are you able to transfer your skills? And I was going to ask you, give some examples of some tangible skill learning or takeaways or tools that you got from your experience as Emma Bowen Fellow at Warner's that you use today. Like, how has that worked, your kind of transference of that experience to this experience?
Oh my gosh. Well, truly everything. So I feel like the skills that I gained at Warner Brothers it's in terms of like just being tangible, like for example, video editing. That, and I also had an internship at NBC Universal where I worked with a post-production team and learned how to use like Avid and Adobe Premiere and video production, producing films. And I mean, for example, at NBC Universal, I was helping to produce a lot of the marketing segments that we would do. Like, for example, we worked for The Voice and This Is Us a lot. And we did like, the holiday segments and all that. But there was a lot of coordinating that you had to do in terms of like getting production crews on set, like coordinating the call sheets and, hiring your producers. And then we would also, so in terms of that, like, for example, I do that a lot actually here now that I think about it. We just had, I'm sure you saw, the First Lady was on the cover of Vogue. So that was a huge production in itself to get, their production crew onto into the White House, which by the way is a production in itself to get past Secret Service and all these security clearances. So that's something I didn't learn before this. But everything else in terms of like video production, we just, had to shoot with Sesame Street. That is all skills that I transferred over. And then just, going from actually like Warner Brothers internships to the campaign, I truly would not have been able to have had an opportunity on the campaign if I didn't have my internship skills at Warner Brothers, if I didn't know how to write, how to research, how to edit video, how to, manage a production shoot, how to, there's so many different things, but I hope that helps. But truly, I think there's a common ground in a lot of what you learn, and internships where you kind of have a foundation of, for example, like writing or researching, and just being resourceful. And, half the time, I kid you not, even at the White House, half the time we are constantly trying to figure things out, constantly trying to figure out new ways to improve and to do different things. So one of the strongest skills you can have, at least in this kind of, actually in most work fields, kind of like how Niija was talking about, how much she pivoted, but is adaptability. Is being able to, be thrown something and just have to figure it out and figure out a new way to do it. I'm constantly trying new processes and figuring out new procedures at the White House and at the campaign. We were constantly like, no one tells you how to do your job until you do it wrong, is what I've learned. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things that you guys can pull from any kind of internships that you have, and just, you know, look at the requirements that you have, that you're looking at for the job. And if you can, you know, if you have like half of those skills, I think you're going to be well equipped. I would say a lot of people look at these job descriptions and think that, you know, you need to have all the skills that are listed, but a job, don't forget, is a two-way street, right? If you already have all of those skills, then what else, like how else are you going to learn and grow there, right? That means you're like that means that job is not fit for you, and that, you know, you can grow to do something else that's maybe at a higher level in that case. So I would just try and think about it like that too, and see how your skills can be adaptable to the new job, if that helps.
We have more questions for you. We all do. Asjia, are your plans to stay in politics communication? What are your new goals now that you're with Lotus?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't. So that's a good question. Do I want to stay in politics? I think yes. For the time being, I think this is the right place for me. I mean, personally, I do a lot of praying. I have to talk to God a lot, because this is a tough industry. It is a very, very tough industry, but it's absolutely rewarding in the sense where I think President Obama once said this too, but he said something along the lines of, you know, government is the one of the most direct ways to make the most impact on the amount of people. And I'm always trying to think of, you know, what am I here on earth to do, and like how can I make the most impact for my time here. And I think right now that is through government. I think we are at such a pivotal point in our history where, my gosh, there's been already so many improvements in terms of just like equity and justice, and just in the first like 100 days of this administration, and to see like what we fought for a year and a half on the campaign, to see all of that come to fruition and see all of the promises made good upon it sometimes it makes me sometimes emotional, because you just see how much impact you can have and how much change you can make. And I think the government it needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of improvements. There's always going to be, but I think I think here is where I should be for now. And it's an honor to work for the First Lady, like I said, again, especially because she's not a political appointee. So there's just a lot of flexibility in terms of, you know, what kind of agenda that we want to set for ourselves and for her. So. Oh, and Niija, I think you might be muted.
I will ask this question next because it is a good, you're very organic to what you just were talking about. Do you feel a lot of pressure running communications for the First Lady, considering that she has such a large presence in America as the First Lady?
Yes, every day. And it's a pressure that, you know, I hold great honor to, and I'm grateful to have. But also the pressure is not in a way that we're used to it, but because you come from the campaign, I think it's a very similar pressure. When I was working for now President Biden on the campaign, you have, you can't make mistakes. You can't. There obviously have been mistakes made, but it is, yes, one of the most high pressure environments that I hope I will ever be in. So if there's anything more high pressure than this, I don't know. But yes, working for him was probably one of the most grueling and tough situation I've ever been in. We were often working till 3 a.m. every day and then waking up at 7 a.m. to do it all over again. And this was 7 days a week, and it still is 7 days a week here for the most part. But I think that pressure it just means that you have a greater responsibility to the public, to people. And you just have to, remind yourself of like what you're doing, why you're doing this every day. You're doing this because, you know, the government can change lives. It can improve healthcare for people. It can change infrastructure and, you know, housing equity for diverse communities. And you just remind yourself of, you know, the impact that you can have, and we're also always trying to grow our impact too, which is the beautiful part about it.
So we have another question about work-life balance, and so I love you go first because you were just talking about the pressure of the job, right? How do you deal with that pressure? How do you handle it? How do you think about it? How do you navigate it and continue to excel and not let it paralyze you? And that also very much has to do with life-work balance, you know, and then I can chime in after that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like I'm going to be candid here. But for example, last night, work-life balance, oh gosh, it's hard to come by work-life balance in this industry. And I think but that's kind of across the board nowadays. And kind of what they were saying in the previous panel, what Niija was saying, and, you know, you have to take care of yourself at the end of the day. You have to, because if you are not taking care of yourself, then you don't perform well at work. Then, you know, your performance and your job performance is heavily affected. So I would just encourage you all to take what you need to do to take care of yourself. For me, that's doing things like making sure I meal prep every weekend and making sure, you know, I see my friends sometimes, like at least once or twice a week, and catch up with them. Like, for example, last night I went to, it was Taco Tuesday, went to go get tacos with friends after work, but had to bring my laptop because I was sending out press releases at dinner. And sometimes it's like that. It's oftentimes like that, you know, where you're constantly on call. But I think there is a fine balance, and I'm still learning it too. I am trying to learn every day how to take better care of myself, because it is a very taxing job, and you'll burn out quickly if you don't. So, and you know, taking care of yourself is different for everyone. So, which reminds me, I need to go get my hair done soon. But Niija, you go.
I'll address a little bit of the pressure piece of it as well, because you have certainly a lot of pressure. And what's clear as you talk about your work is that you love it and you find it very fulfilling and you know the importance of it. And that really mitigates sometimes a lot of pressure that one might feel in a position that is a high pressure position. I have a lot of pressure in my position because I'm dealing with really huge budgets. I have the potential of making or losing lots of money for my company, and it's content that's going out to the globe, you know? And so for me, I deal with that pressure because I don't think of it as pressure because I just love it so much. Like I'll make a movie that has really high stakes to it. And even if that movie, I've had huge failures, and I still, even though like I've had huge failures, I still stand by those decisions in that movie I made and that story I told because I loved it so much. And so, you know, I think if you kind of really can just, like I said before, kind of really just think about your North Star and think about your passion for the work that you're doing, the pressure doesn't feel as tangibly like pressure. You know, it feels more like I'm trying to get done what I need to get done. I'm trying to fulfill my purpose here. And I think life-work balance is always a struggle for me. But I think, Asjia, you said it beautifully, which is self-care and kind of really figuring out what are the things that you love that make you happy, spending time with your family. I love to travel. So early on, even as a junior executive, I instituted a tradition of like leaving the country every single New Year's with friends, you know? And so what are the things that you just love to do that make you happy, that will give you some release from work? But it is, you know, I think when you also love what you do in some of these jobs, it can be hard to maintain the life-work balance. Boundaries is another thing that I'm, you know, slowly but surely learning. So.
Amen.
another question, because there's a lot coming in now.
Wait, but we have some questions for you, though.
I'll answer one, and then let's go back to a question that's been waiting for you for a long time.
Okay. So for you, what is it like working on social justice films that you know will have an impact? What grounds you during the process?
For me, it's interesting because I never set out to make some of these films that I've made. And I don't only make social justice films. I've made like such a wide variety of films. And for me, it's always been, do I care about this story? Like, and is it a good story? Is it an incredible story? Just Mercy, I actually wasn't that familiar with Brian. I was familiar with his book. I hadn't read it yet before it came across my desk. And when it was being pitched to me as a movie, I read the book, and it was already a screenplay when it was being pitched to me as a movie. And it was a beautiful screenplay. It was a gorgeous screenplay. It made me cry. And I just felt like, well, if I cry at this is a little bit what you have to have when you are making movies for the world. You have to have this like weird narcissistic kind of thing of like, if I cry, then maybe millions of people will also cry. And I just loved it so much. And Brian, I just got obsessed with Brian and started like watching everything, watching every talk, watching every interview, and really just kind of really leaned in. And so I really told that story because of Brian and his story. And it just was incredible. And then through that, got really involved in the work of, okay, how do we protect Brian? How do we use the film for impact, you know? But the thing that led was the story and it being a great story, right? Judas, I've always been obsessed with Fred Hampton. I've always been obsessed with the Black Panther Party. I grew up in LA with my dad, who also grew up in LA, telling me stories of the Black Panthers and his experience with them, and was reading books about Fred Hampton and reading Sada Shakur bio, like all these things as a teenager and as a preteen. And so I had actually been looking for 10 years for the right way to tell a Black Panther Party story. And people knew that around town and had pitched me things, and they weren't right. And in the Judas case, the filmmakers came and pitched this story and this way into the story, and I thought it was perfect. And so, again, that, you know, I guess that led from a social justice place, because I've always been social justice minded, even as a kid, and have always known and been very much, you know, into the history of the Black Panther Party. And so, but really what made me make that movie was the approach to telling the story and feeling like people needed to know Fred Hampton's story. So the thing that grounds me is that these are all real people, and it's really hard to tell these stories when you're dealing with a real person, meaning Brian Stevenson and his work, you know, and you don't want to F it up, essentially, right? Or when you're dealing with Fred Hampton and the legacy of the Black Panther Party, and you're dealing with Fred Hampton's family and current Black Panthers who are still living, and just the legacy of their work, and everything that they've been through, all the trauma that, you know, this community has been through over the years, that really grounds you in terms of just always checking yourself in terms of, am I doing the right thing? Am I protecting them? Am I protecting the story? How are we as a big studio handling it correctly? And so those are the things I think about when I'm telling the story. Asjia.
Yes.
Let's take it back to internship. It's amazing how many of your colleagues speak of your excellence on the job. What are some tips or best practices you employed in order to perform above and beyond in your current role and your past role?
Tips. Well, the first one, and I kudos this to Sandra Rice. I don't think any of you may not have met her yet, but she was the former vice president here at the Emma Bowen Foundation as well. I'm sure you will meet her in like some panels, and but always say your thank yous. Always say your thank yous, whether that's through, an email, after an interview, after all of your internships. I would write handwritten notes for people, just because, I mean, honestly, like the amount of, just experience and learning and the amount of time people took to teach me things across the internships, I truly felt like that was the least I could do. I tried to like bake people things. I didn't know I was also really, really broke, as Alex mentioned, how we were sharing like, oh, this is what I'm eating tonight, cereal and ramen. But so, I mean, I would try and, just say my thank yous in any way that's, like personal to you, and also will make the other person feel good and appreciated as well. So after all of your, your internships, like definitely write those handwritten cards. I think that small token of appreciation always goes well. Someone actually just told me the other day that they kept my card. I thought that was the sweetest thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, you kept my card that I wrote you like 3 years ago. But they did. So I would say thank yous for sure. And I would also say when you're networking, and you're, getting informationals at your internships, as I'm sure like everyone is encouraging you to do, and like seeking those 20 minute like coffees and chats and everything. A lot of people automatically, go to the top and, ask like, presidents and VPs and everything for those coffee chats. But I would really, really encourage you to just chat with all of the, the assistants, the executive assistants, the managers, the producers, people who are not necessarily at the top, but are truly like the core of these teams and who are really making the trains run every day. Because for one, they just know the ins and outs of the company. They will give you the tea. They'll tell you the ups and downs. They'll be frank with you. They'll be really honest. And they know everyone too, because they are the people who are, like I said, running the trains. So I would often meet with a lot of like executive assistants at Warner Brothers. Oh, and I loved it. They just, it's just they had so much insight and so much knowledge and are just so brilliant and smart. And also they are in the positions that are probably next up for you in terms of, I guess, just being closer from when you graduate after your internships and you graduate. Those are the positions that you'll be next in line for in a sense. So I would definitely talk to them, and then I don't know what else would I do. Like I would always stay late. I would always stay late, mostly because there's always work to be done. But and I usually didn't clock those hours, but I would just, and I would love to learn. That's another way you learn a lot too, is by staying late and just chatting with people who are there late too. Sometimes like on set, on productions, they would have late shoots, and I would love to just stay and watch and like sit by like the directors and producers and just, just be like a fly on the wall kind of. But same thing in an office setting too. Would also stay late there. What else? I mean, I think one other thing is just getting to, maybe this is obvious, I don't know, but just getting to know every single person on the team and on your not necessarily like immediate team, but also like, in your and other teams around you. I think I always love to kind of figure out everyone's piece to the puzzle and like how everyone contributes to the big picture, because it is because everyone's role is so important, whether you are president versus whether you are, I don't know, the production assistant, right? Like every single person has such a vital role that if you took one of them out, like truly things would crumble. So I just love to like meet everyone and to just understand like how everyone, how it really takes a village to do anything, to whether you're in marketing, whether you're, creating a film, on a campaign, whatnot. It truly takes a village. So I would just make sure you meet everyone and make sure everyone, knows you too. And then also to just like pay it forward along the way. If you can, just lift up your brothers and sisters, your other interns, your peers, your other colleagues. I think we all really have to look out for each other in these industries. And and I found the greatest friendships and relationships with people who were my peers and who, some of them are my best friends now. And so, and they will be there with you through all the ups and downs and all the challenges. But yeah, I would just say pay it forward as you go along, because, as people are lifting you up to get to the next place, we got to, lift up the others as well, and just people coming after us as well.
Okay, we only have a few minutes left, so I think we're going to try to quickly fit in these last two questions, which are, and I'll do this one very quickly. Where do you recommend looking if you want to gain experience in film, TV producing as someone who is totally new to it? Internship. When I was in corporate communications, I had my full-time job in Corp Com, and I found, I started for free writing film reviews for an online film magazine called blackfilm.com. And through that, met and started interning for free outside of my full-time job for two production companies, Killer Films and also Lee Daniels production company, and read scripts and interned. And those internships led to more connections and relationships, which led to the next internship. And I did all that while I had a full-time corporate job. I also PA'd. I was also a production assistant on sets. Any movie that would come, I would volunteer to go get paid a pittance and stand and hold off the street or get coffee or a little bit of some of what Ava did for these TV shows, right? And so I did that all while I had a full-time gig in Corp Com. And so internship, and just, if you're in New York or LA, which you tend to have to be if you're going to be in film or TV, creative, there's productions going on. And so if you figure out what productions are going on or what production companies are there, call up and figure out what is the lowest rung that I could start with. Can I intern? So that's one. And then the second question is, what is one personality trait and or skill you have or saw each other exude that you feel is essential to thriving in the entertainment editorial industry? I will say something that I think is essential to thriving in any of these media industries that we're in, that I saw immediately in Asjia, is really being able to have a point of view on the work, a point of view on what you're doing, and being able to articulate it. What we do is all about communication, not just the actual work that we're doing, but in terms of communicating with our colleagues, communicating with talent, communicating, as a person of color in the room, and often the only person of color in the room. Everything is about communication. Everything is about having a definitive point of view and being really honest and truthful about what your point of view is, and authentic, but then knowing how to communicate that in a way that an artist, a director, a writer, an executive, a chairman, a first lady, or whatever it is. Asjia.
Oh my gosh. I mean, personality trait. I would say being, oh my gosh. I mean, there's so many, right? I mean, truly, if you're getting into the industry, like I said, trying to get to know everyone and just being friendly and trying to meet everyone, and is huge in entertainment, especially because a lot of it is about not about your relationships, but a lot of the next steps after your internships will come from relationships with people, and who just for example, that one executive who came up to me and suggested I go to the Obama Foundation. If I had never went there, I don't think I would be here now. I don't know if I would have gone into a campaign or politics. So I think just being, just trying to get to know everyone. And even if you are an introvert, or it doesn't matter if you're introvert or extrovert, push yourself to build those relationships with people. Because I think in entertainment, that's one of the biggest things that you could do, because that's how you learn about the next opportunity. It's how you learn about what's next, about other people, about how it is to work in different sectors, and for this TV show and that TV show, or how it is to work in marketing. Because oftentimes a lot of these people who are on sets and who are working in entertainment, they have such a lucrative amount of experience. And so I would just really push yourself to do that, and to just really get to know every single person on the team and in your industry.
Thank you all. This has been wonderful. Asjia.
Niija, thank you for everything. Thank you for having me, everyone. I wish I could see everyone's faces, but I truly hope I can, meet you guys all at some point in person after this pandemic is over. My gosh. But if I can be helpful to anyone after this, like, please hit me up on LinkedIn. I don't know if I can drop like my email here, but more than happy to help anyone who is interested in entertainment or even in politics. If you want to get into politics, totally support that.
So cool seeing the mentee becoming the mentor.
Oh gosh, no.
Ladies, that was fantastic. Exceeded expectations. I know you both weren't able to join us for the last 2 days, but you have no idea how you reinforced, validated, co-signed themes that have been shared throughout. So thank you both. What I want to say is you both have been making boss moves. Asjia, while I appreciate, much like Niija said, that this was meant to be about you, I so appreciate the love and adoration and respect that you have for her, that you chose to share your space and your spotlight with her. That's called putting on each other's crowns and keeping it straight. And I appreciate you for that. To that end, we are proud of you both. Niija, keep bringing the blockbuster hits. And Asjia, we're going to see you at the point that you decide, should you decide to run for president, my love. I'm just saying, we're going to be right here to support you. You already got my vote, Ladybug. You already got my vote. Thank you both so very much.